Hi, everyone. I'm Elon Musk,
And this is the UnMusking Show.
a comedy show where I joke around about the world's burning issues instead of actually tackling them. In this episode, I'd like to take off the mask of a playboy scientist billionaire and speak plainly as a father of 10 children, whom I have thanks to me being a playboy scientist billionaire. As any father, I'd like to give my children the best education I can. After all, I care so much about my dearest beloved. Did you actually buy this? Me being a loving father? Thankfully, I'm not a politician, so I don't really need this whole salt of the earth facade. A loving father would call their son, I don't know, Jack or Mike, not XAA12.
So what I really care about is global challenges. Oh, and Overwatch cosplay. And smoking on camera during podcasts.
There's tobacco and marijuana in there.
Sorry, I got carried away.
I hope you've been keeping up with news about me.
Go yourself.
In that case, you know that I'm launching my university in Texas. I can use my show to advertise my other ventures, right? Any young person in this world is free to choose, from a variety of educational systems and establishments. A Russian student can enroll in a school in democratic Europe. A Chinese student can become a Silicon Valley resident, and a
North Korean
student, well, he can still choose which one of the two allowed male haircuts he will have. Choosing an education path affects not only the career of a particular student or their family's sense of pride. Educational systems can make or break national economies and even have far-reaching impacts on the global economy. We want to cultivate talents of our children and help them reach their full potential. But instead, it seems that we lack formal discipline and reduce the quality of education that we provide. On top of that, we still follow teaching methods of the 20th century, while at the same time, AI advancements allow creating a thesis paper and passing college exams in a few easy clicks. Today, I'd like to talk about what secondary and higher education should be in the 21st century and who's winning the education system race. Here's a spoiler. It's not USA. Children and the elderly. I don't think there's a horror movie which could scare me more than the current state of affairs. To make things worse, the existing economic leadership of the US is being challenged by developing nations, primarily China, its main economic and political rival. Meanwhile, here's what's going on in Chinese schools. The difference is as noticeable as between North and South Korea. To be clear, America is not the winner here, neither is North Korea.
As the proponents of cancel culture in X like to say, all answers lie in the past. Let's remember how the American educational system came to be.
Back in the 9th century, there appeared a growing need in workers as a result of the Industrial Revolution. This required making a large number of citizens somewhat educated, just enough to allow them to work various machinery without breaking it. And thus, the American public school system was born. As we all know, nothing can remain effective if it stays the same over 2 centuries, be it the educational system or Joe Biden's political views. The world is changing. We're building electric cars, planning a manned mission to Mars, and developing brain implants. I personally don't know anyone doing these things, but I'm sure these people are leading humanity to a brighter future. Meanwhile, the educational system still basically resorts to memorizing various scientific facts, theories, and formulas. Students simply learn the answer to what without asking the why. In other words, they do what a modern AI does, and the latter does it faster, better, and for free. I think Russia was the first country to understand that things have to change. I mean, for over a year now, their school students have been building drones. Talk about taking a hands-on approach. I suggest we do the thing Donald Trump hates the most. Look at actual facts and figures. So, what's being taught through modern educational systems? Here's the 5 most popular US undergraduate degrees in 2021. Number 1 is business. Sure, I also like counting money. Number 2, healthcare. Next time you go to a doctor, take a look at the bill and you'll find out why. Care amount to almost a third of all graduates. They're followed by social sciences and history. So 7% of graduates will be the ones calling you with stupid polls on the weekend. And raking last in this list is psychology.
Yeah, I feel better. Feel better.
You know, I really do feel like going to a shrink after seeing this list. It just seems so lacking. Oh, there it is. Number 6, engineering. Just 6% of the total graduates take up this major. Just to make it clear, psychologists, people who rummage through your brains to blame your mom or dad for all your issues, outnumber engineers. People who rummage through electronics and build computers, software and rockets, and overall push the boundaries of technology and economy. Take that, Elon Musk. That's what I would have said if I were not Elon Musk. What about China? Here's their respective top 4: healthcare, agriculture, science and engineering. A whopping 18% of graduates are engineers, 3 times more than in the United States. And that's just the ratio. Don't forget that China has 4 times the population of the US. What about psychologists? I guess instead of going to therapy, the Chinese simply listen to the speeches of Communist Party leaders. To be fair, some countries use a powerful tool to manage degree distribution: allotted free education. In other words, students are given higher education without paying tuition as long as they qualify and enroll in specific programs. While Uncle Sam doesn't feel like footing the bill for university degrees, Mr. Xi and Vladimir Putin believe it's a good idea to use it to satisfy the national demand in certain professions. For example, in Russia, 41% of students who were granted free higher education in 2023 enrolled in engineering and other tech programs. To be fair, Russia doesn't have that many students compared to the real powerhouse of education today.
To sum up, here's the ratio between engineering graduates in the United States and China. And here's the ratio between the total population, a 7-fold difference.
What do you think, which country will achieve technological superiority over the next few years if the same challenges are tackled by 7 times as many highly skilled professionals in China than in the United States? I think the answer is as obvious as the self-inflicted crisis of the MCU. I doubt that 1 American is equivalent to 7 Chinese people, and we're not talking about body weight here.
3.
I know. You still hope that scientist superhero wearing a tight bodysuit will lead the United States to a better future with a booming economy, but 1 person can hardly make a difference when it comes to national development. Even if I were as wise as Yoda, I wouldn't be able to take on the clone army of China, especially if they're all engineers. To illustrate, here's the ratio between US and China's engineers, with me in the picture. Regardless, an overwhelming difference.
Need students who hold progressive scientific views.
And at the same time, traditional political ones.
What do you say, Mr. Biden? What kind of students does the U.S. need?
America needs young people who make their own decisions, which degree to get, which subjects to choose, whether to go to college or get a job out of high school. What they can't get is free government-sponsored education, though we don't do that here.
We adhere to the China 2050 development strategy.
We adhere to the principles of freedom of choice, psychological well-being of our students, developing their social skills and realizing their creative potential.
And thus we're getting to the second key difference between Western and Eastern educational systems. It's not just about the subjects and majors students choose. It's also about the soft skills they gain, the social experience they receive during their studies. Relax and enjoy the show. You'll see videos from schools and universities, and some of the things you'll see might even rival Animal Planet. Let's take a break and look at the latest news of the education system. British school children will be banned from using their phones in schools to boost their concentration during class. Seems fair enough. Phones do distract and hamper memorizing information. But do you really need to memorize something you can access with your phone? Troubling news from New York. They're cutting down on variety in school cafeterias. Perhaps someone read that an empty stomach leads to better thinking. Interestingly, a similar thing happened to the budget for feeding the immigrants. Is it just me, or do some people get a bit carried away with the whole democracy thing? Meanwhile, British scientists announced that free school lunches actually lead to improved reading skills among children. So, to sum up, London, eat your lunches, just don't have a phone on you. New York, phones are okay, but food is, well, limited. Dear parents, the choice is yours.
I was bullied in school and even had my nose broken once. We could argue whether it affected my desire to break Twitter, but that's beside the point. What matters is that the educational system greatly affects not only the knowledge students receive, but their worldview. Discipline, it shapes the way they behave in our society. Have you noticed the discipline and diligence with which Mark Zuckerberg copies
Features from his competitors.
If it were up to me, I'd measure discipline in Zucks. But for now, discipline has no units of measurement, so we'll have to resort to other ways to analyze it. Let's take, I don't know, teenage TikTok trends. This is what I've noticed. If we imagine a scale depicting the degree of freedom of students across several countries, the undisputed leader will be the United States with its virtually limitless liberty. On the other end of the spectrum, the perfect example of discipline and order will be China. Once again, communism and capitalism are at odds.
Judging by TikToks,
The difference is indeed immense. Students of American schools are free to do seemingly whatever they want. Take a look at these videos.
Get my goddamn face! You go there. All right! Sit down. You go sit down!
Meanwhile, the discipline of Chinese school children rivals that of Army Special Ops training. While Eastern culture promotes respecting elders and authority figures, such as teachers, the web is full of examples of the opposite from the US. For example,
Write a referral for stealing. Seriously.
Oh, you want to write a referral?
Yeah.
while American school kids are getting taken by parents to the movies or the mall, their Chinese counterparts start classes at 6:30 a.m.,
go home at 9 p.m.
and live in schools from Monday to Saturday. There's only one Western school with a similarly immersive approach, Hogwarts.
Constant vigilance.
I think it's child abuse. They need to enjoy the learning process.
They're enjoying it. I've already signed the corresponding decree.
Different strokes, I guess. We'll take a break now to give you a chance to argue with your family members who are also watching the show. Obviously, China's students deserve to be classified as 10 out of 10 Zucks, whereas American school children are 2 to 3 Zucks at best. Although all other countries have their own takes on education, we can place them somewhere between the US and China. For instance, in Finland, each student has their own curriculum. This is similar to the American system. In Russia, they recently introduced conversations about important things, lessons that cover various topics important for the Russian government. This idea sounds like something right up China's alley. Somehow it feels that the Cold War never ended, at least in the field of education. Let's see what results Western and Eastern approaches to education have, respectively. Now let's take a look at performance. Who's really getting things done? American teenagers drunk on liberty or overly disciplined Chinese kids? 5 years ago, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, conducted testing for 600,000 students, assessing their skills in math and reading, as well as general science knowledge. Don't know how they managed to actually persuade them to take the test. And here are the results, very illustrative. These are the top 10 countries with best reading performance. China's number 1, and the US isn't even on the list. It's number 13. Oh, by the way, while Americans read words made up out of 24 letters, the Chinese have to deal with 40,000 characters. Moving on, top 10 countries with best performance in science. Again, China is number 1, and the US is all the way down at number 18. Wedged between Australia, where all they have to count is kangaroos, and Sweden, where they can't even take their gloves off without freezing off their fingers. And now, math. China, Number one, it's not an error. China's first across the board. As for the United States, and maybe here, oh my God, there we are. Number 37, our neighbors are Belarus and Malta. They're basically glorified villages. Even Russia's better at math than the US. Those guys are number 30. Maybe that's why the so-called Russian schools of math are so popular in the States. They teach kids using the old Soviet approach.
Made a mistake. Off to Siberia you go.
Another testament to Soviet math education is the fact that Russians regularly win various STEM competitions, and their IT guys make the best apps, really. For example, if you're in Russia, day or night, you can order food, trade foreign currency in your banking app, and even get drafted with
An online army conscription. Of course, any one rating system cannot perfectly reflect the true state of things. So for those of you in the Philippines and Dominican Republic, don't take it to heart. And yes, you're dead last in all categories. I guess the ranking was created by a hater of former Spanish colonies.
Hello, and welcome.
It's not really your fault.
But you can't really argue that China's engineering education programs are miles ahead of what the United States offers. I guess even getting to 37th place was aided by the Chinese students studying in the US. Yeah, that's what the US national math team looks like. These guys took second place.
You know who took the gold home? The conclusion is quite obvious. Discipline is better for school children than permissiveness, at least when it comes to academic performance, which eventually translates to economic growth. Over the next few decades, I would expect China to go through a technological boom. Overstudied children will grow up. Some will become engineers and will become overworked adults. They will be the ones to boost China's economy to new heights. And then, after burning out working for the world's top economy, they will finally need therapy. Now it's time for American graduates to shine. What do national leaders think about all this?
Elon, I don't like the way you portray the USA in front of our ideological rivals.
But look at the facts and figures.
It's been a while since we discussed taxes with regards to Tesla. Oh, and that Amber Heard thing.
Loud and clear, sir.
If things are so bad, why do Chinese students come to American schools?
A valid point. Chinese students make up the most international students in the United States. On the other hand, this ratio is declining. According to SEVIS, in 2020, the Chinese made up 32% of international students, but in 2023, the figure dropped to 24%.
When a student from China goes to the United States for education, they raise the average IQ in two countries, both the US and China.
Hey, that doesn't sound too bad.
Can you name a country on this map?
I believe that's Africa,
Nope.
Russia.
Nope, that's China.
It's LA. They're all actors there. And barely anyone from the US goes to China, by the way. A meager 400 people in 2021.
Indeed. Soon I will have more kids. Mr. Xi?
That's because Americans can't learn our language.
Gentlemen, I have a question for both of you. If Chinese students possess this amazing knowledge and American students have abundant liberties, how come the most progressive startups are launched by a billionaire playboy from South Africa? So, to sum up, here's the conclusion of our comedy show. US graduates have the wrong professions for technological and scientific progress. American kids do not learn essential soft skills in schools. In terms of knowledge given to students, USA is way behind China and a bunch of other countries. Well, my American viewers, feel like going to a therapist yet? Honestly, though, do I want to enroll my kids in a Chinese school? Although I do have 10 children and I could just roll the dice, I prefer taking the strengths of each competitor and building something better. So if you want to give your child truly the best education, think about moving to Austin, Texas, and make sure your child knows that STEM, not STEAM, will rule his life from then on. What does the future hold? We'll know in 10 to 20 years. Just make sure to avoid eating bats and participating in local wars, which seems to be popping up all over the place. Oh, and smile more. Laughter is the best medicine after all. And if you still believe that American educational system is the best there is, make sure to tune in for the next episode, where we will examine the healthcare system, subscribe to my channel, and see you next time.